Hello everyone, this is T-Cat from T-Cat's Deep Vinyl Tracks. This video is being made in response to Robert's On My Turntable contest. He wants us to name 5 albums that influenced us as a teenager and why. Robert's a great person. He's got a great channel. If you're not subscribed to him already, I would invite you all to go subscribe to his channel, join in on this contest. You have a chance to win a $30 gift card, and all you've got to do is show us 5 vinyl albums that had an influence on us as a teenager. So I picked out the 5 that I felt had the biggest influence on me. Some of them are a little surprising, but I went back to some of the earliest albums I listened to and when I was quite young. And the first one, I remember my uncle had a copy of this, and I was always intrigued by it, by the way they broke up some of the songs on the album. Oh, looks like Susie has decided to join us. Yes, how are you? Wants to get on the camera. There's old Susie. Okay, we'll go over here for a minute. And anyway, my uncle had this album, and I remember seeing it and was quite intrigued with the fact that they had taken some of their well-known songs, like Make Me Smile, and divided it up into a suite. Plus the fact that some of the songs were kind of long and that, and I thought it was quite interesting. So it was probably the first album I was really fascinated with, and that is Chicago 2. I've shown this one before, but this is a great copy of it. This is, of course, Chicago's second album after they changed their name from Chicago Transit Authority. I still really love this album. It's one of the few Chicago albums, she likes to keep walking past, that I really like to keep in my collection. So, Chicago number 2. The first album I can say that was my very own, that I owned myself. I went out and bought on 8-track with my own money, and that was Steve Miller Band's Fly Like an Eagle. Now, I'd never heard anything by Steve Miller or Steve Miller Band before purchasing this album. This was the first album I could call my own, and I loved it based off of the song Fly Like an Eagle and Wild Mountain Honey, which they were playing on the FM station back then that I was listening to. So I ended up looking into Steve Miller's discography a little closer back then and started buying old and new music from him. Come to find out, I really like his older bluesier and psychedelic stuff more, but still, he's kind of a nostalgic thing for me, and own almost all of his albums. Another one that I had back then that influenced me to dive deeper into this band and into progressive music was this album here. Now, this is actually a reissue and a redone version of the album that this cover used to have. The album I'm talking about is King Crimson's The Young Person's Guide to King Crimson. This one here is an alternative version of that. It has different songs on it. It has alternative versions of some of their better known songs. And I haven't been able to find a copy. The copy I had back then was a half-speed master, and I wish I still had it. But I haven't been able to find a copy of that. But this comes pretty close. And I'm really glad that I was able to find this one. I believe it goes by a different name also. If I can find it here. It's not listed on the cover at all. There's the back of the cover, by the way, if you haven't seen it. An Alternative Guide to King Crimson is what it's called now. entire thing on there for the track listing. Alright, so it has alternative versions that aren't available anywhere else. Another one that I found that I really enjoyed when I was younger and got me into more of the progressive pop side of things was 10cc's, the original soundtrack. This was the first 10cc album that I owned. I loved it because of the song I'm Not in Love. It used to be one of my favorite songs, especially growing up. I remember listening to the transistor radio while I was laying in bed, falling asleep, and that song would come on. And I remember a breeze coming down off of the mountains in through the window on a hot summer day while I was laying there, and that song just really flows with the way the curtains would move when the breeze would blow through the window and all that. Anyway, again, it's a personal thing. But another album that had a big influence on what I listen to and the music that I love. One of the more progressive albums that I had, I kind of found on accident, and I bought it as just one of those blind buys, I guess you would call it. I joined the Columbia House Record Club, and the description next to this album seemed so interesting I decided to order it, and I'm glad I did because it's become and still is one of my favorite albums, and that is UK. I think most people here in the vinyl community know this album. Back then I had no idea who was in this band. I didn't know who any of the players were. I didn't know Bill Buford. I didn't know who Alan Holdsworth was, or John Wetton, or Eddie Jobson. I didn't know any of these people. But I remember coming home from work feeling really, really tired, and this album had come in the mail. So I turned it on while I was laying on the bed, and just almost like I could feel the music. It was probably the closest thing I could have to saying that I could actually feel what the music was like, and I just fell in love with that album. Got me into the deeper prog music back at the time, and made me discover a lot of other bands out there that I didn't know about up until then. Now, I actually got one more that I want to show real quick because it was quite an influence. It was hard for me to cut it down to just 5, so I worked at it and finally got it down to 6. But this is one that I think a lot of people would agree with, and I got the remastered version of it, Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. There's the remaster tag, and this one comes in the black cover that it used to be in originally as the postcard. The difference with this one is it has that sealed shrink on it, resealable shrink, and I don't always like that, but that's how it is. And that's the inner sleeve. The labels are really nice. A reproduction of the original. And so that's it. My submission into the 5 albums that influenced me as a teenager. I actually showed 6. I hope everybody's okay with that, and I wish everybody good luck in this contest. Go over and subscribe to his channel. He's a great guy. He's got a lot of excellent knowledge about the bands that he shows, and even just streak at the music of Marillion, which I'll be watching. Sounds like a very interesting subject, and I invite everybody to go over and check out his channel and join his contest. Alright, thank you, and we'll talk to you later.